Well, as you know, young people are being told that who or what they identify as is more important than biological reality. If they're biologically male, who cares? They can identify as female, and vice versa. But what if they want to identify as something non-human? Ha, no problem. We have terms for that as well. So I learnt a new word today, otherkin. Now, according to Wikipedia, otherkin are a subculture of people who identify as not entirely human. Some otherkin believe their identity derives from reincarnation, a non-human soul, ancestry, symbolism, or metaphor. Others attribute it to the unusual psychology and do not hold spiritual beliefs on the subject. And categories of otherkin include fictionkin, where they identify as fictional characters, conceptkin, who identify as abstract concepts, weatherkin, who identify as weather systems, as well as a number of other more obscure categories. And there's also a term that you may have heard of called furries. It's a subculture of people who identify as animals, often dressing up in costumes as part of what they call their fursonas, not personas, fursonas. It's called fur science. Now, in February, a school district in Iowa in the US was hit with rumors saying that students who identify as cats are allowed to use litter boxes in the school restrooms. The rumor was so bad that they had to send a letter to students and parents.
The Carroll School District uses a tiger as its mascot, but another kind of cat is making news this week.
It is bizarre.
Iowa State Education Association Director Mary Jane Cobb can't believe the latest social media craziness. It's gotten so bad, Carroll School Superintendent Casey Berlau sent a letter to students and parents Monday. He writes, quote, "The rumor is that our schools have litter boxes in the restrooms to accommodate individuals who are self-identifying as animals. This is simply and emphatically not true." Townspeople say social media is to blame.
It's just too extreme. It's ridiculous.
The ICA says the rumor started in Michigan when a parent spoke out to a school board. The ICA says it's a right-wing attempt to mock LGBTQ restroom equality.
It's absurd and it's mean-spirited and it is absolutely not the focus we should be having right now.
Cobb says this harms students' mental health, and she applauds the Carroll School District for speaking out.
I would just ask the people that are promulgating this myth to stop.
Which myth are they talking about? Is it the myth that you can choose and change your sex? The myth that identification trumps reality and biology? I mean, which myth are we talking about? Now, this follows on from an earlier example, a short TikTok clip in which a woman claimed to be a substitute teacher. She vented about a school supposedly firing her for failing to respect a student's decision to identify as a cat, and it went viral on social media.
Okay, I've got to rant for a minute. Just when I thought school couldn't get any weirder, it did today. I'm a sub, and the most important thing we do is take roll so the school gets paid. So I'm looking at the seating chart as I'm going up and down the rows and marking who's here and who's not. I get to the third row and I hear this, meow. Excuse me? Excuse me? I start looking on the ground. Go to the fourth row, everything's good. Go to the fifth row, everybody's there. Then I hear, meow. I'm like, okay, what's up with that? Who's doing it? And this little girl in the very front row says, you have to meow back at him. He identifies as a cat. Are you kidding me? I said, is there a litter box in here somewhere? My sarcasm self probably shouldn't have said that. He gets up and he storms out of the classroom. And I'm like, rough. And of course, the entire class is laughing. And I think, no problem, no foul. I go to the office. You ready for this? To check out. They said, we no longer need your services if you can't identify with all the children in the classroom. And you wonder why they don't have any subs. I told...
Now, the video's creator is a high school teacher, according to her past videos, but the story is entirely made up, ironically, as an exercise to create awareness of what kids are going through at school, according to other videos posted several days later by the same account. But people still believe the original story. Why? Because it fits the narrative that feelings trump reality. And it came in the same week a Michigan school was forced to debunk a rumor which stemmed from a video from a school board meeting where an attendee claimed that the school is installing litter boxes for students that identify as cats. Now, I know you're thinking this is just getting ridiculous. I expect to read this in tabloids like the Sun newspaper. And next minute, oh look, this is from 2019. No kitten, I identify as a cat, wear a tail and ears each day. My boyfriend puts me on a leash and thinks it's cute. And then there was this interview at the beginning of this year on UK's ITV. And have a watch at the response of the interviewers.
I'm a British Columbia wolf therianthrope. So it started with dream shifting. So that's when I had a dream of myself as a British Columbia wolf, and I could view myself in some of these dreams. Like I could actually see myself sort of as an observer. And in some of these dreams, I was, acting as a wolf. So this sort of happened originally, it came from watching the anime Wolf's Rain. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like somehow this wolf is me. It was kind of this automatic association.
Okay, and then there was this one recently from Norway.
A woman in Norway believes she belongs to a different breed. She claims that she is a cat trapped in a human's body.
Ser du dyr og sånn ute I mørket, mus og sånn? Ja, har løpt veldig ofte etter dyr som viser seg I skygger og sånt.
The 20-year-old who goes by Nano shared her unique story in an interview published on a Norwegian YouTube channel.
Jeg Nano, 20 år. Jeg har vært katt hele livet. Jeg fant ut at jeg var katt når jeg var 16 år, da leger og psykologer fant ut hva som var med meg.
She says doctors found a genetic defect in her DNA, which she claims proves she is indeed a cat.
Yep, that definitely proves it. And then, of course, there was the Matt Walsh, What is a Woman documentary, which if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. But it showed this clip.
We're seeing kids that are identifying as animals going to school, and they are purring instead of answering questions, and they meow, and the teachers are not allowed to question it because it's considered a queer identity.
So you have kids that are going to school and they're saying, I'm a cat, and the teachers have to affirm them as a cat.
Yes, so it's
the
not
schools
just
are
the
like
young ones.
literal zoos now, basically.
They are.
Okay, surely it can't be true. Well, just this week, this story appeared in the New Zealand Herald. And a Melbourne private school is reportedly supporting a year 8, so that's a 12-year-old non-verbal student and identifying as a cat. According to the Herald Sun, reports the phenomenally bright child has been allowed to assume their identity with the behaviour linked to the furry subculture that we talked about, and it's been adopted by some teen circles. Now, a source close to the family said no one seems to have protocol for students identifying as animals, but the approach has been that if it doesn't disrupt the school, everyone is being supportive and the behaviour is being normalised. And now more and more people are identifying as whatever they want to identify with, including furries. And the school said that their approach to mental health is always unique to the student and will take into account professional advice and the well-being of the student. That's what the school responded. And in March, it was reported that female students at an elite Brisbane private school were walking on all fours and cutting holes into their uniforms for tails because they identify as cats or foxes. When a girl went to sit at a spare desk, another girl screamed at her and said she was sitting on her tail. There's a slit in this child's uniform where the tail apparently is, said one mum. She said girls who identify as felines preen themselves, licking the back of their hands, and the foxes walk around with their arms leaning towards the ground as if they're on all fours. The kids are all talking about it. Now, in a Rolling Stone feature from 2019, the director of communications of Anthrocon, which is an annual furry convention that takes place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, said there are a range of reasons why someone might want to explore the furry subculture. He said some of them like the aesthetic, they like the idea of creating somebody, and they like the idea of being someone other than who they are. Now, I'm not sure whether this story has been verified, these Australian stories, the one in the New Zealand Herald. Some are questioning it. But here's the interesting bit. The media also quoted some experts. Brisbane psychologist Judith Locke said she was not surprised by the emergence of the furry trend. She claimed it was only a matter of time before people began to identify as animals after romanticising them in their lives, in film and in television. She said, but there's a real challenge around the acceptance of people's decisions on how they see themselves these days. It is a fraught area. And Australian adolescent psychologist Michael Carr-Gregg, well known in Australia, said he had only come across one client who identified as an animal in his 25 years of practice. The client was a young boy who identified as a dog. And Dr. Carr-Gregg said once the stresses in his life were removed, the boy resorted back to identifying as a human being. Ah, yes. Great response. Once the stresses in life are removed, they resort back to identifying as a human being. Just how we should approach gender identity disorder. You know, when it comes to identifying as cats, we should push pause. See what I did there?